Hi, and welcome to today's presentation outlining the updates to our Cybersecurity Hardening Guide. I'm Peter McKeague, one of the product managers for the onshore business unit for Zenitel. Joining me today is Anders Vatland, one of our development engineers.
Hello.
At Zenitel, we see a robust and constantly improving cyber strategy as a keystone in achieving our goal to be the world-leading provider of intelligent critical communication systems. Zenitel has developed a hardening guide so that we can act as a trusted advisor to our security base, and we've had a recent update to that. The goal of today is to show how one can use this guide, and we'll include a walkthrough demo of how to implement some of our recommendations. Some of you will be new to this document, but if you're not, it's still worth going over as some of the controls have been updated and reprioritized. I'd like to start by outlining some of the cybersecurity challenges we face within the physical security market, why we need the guide, and what built-in solutions we offer with our product range. So, why bother with cybersecurity? IP solutions are becoming more pervasive across all facets of industry, technology, and, well, everyday life. Orchestrated breaches to both corporate and personal data have become more regular and noteworthy occurrences, with some very high-profile cases in the past few years. It's easy to infer that cybersecurity is therefore an issue only really faced by high-profile corporations, but that's not the fact of the matter. As more devices are connected via IoT and more services are offered in the virtual domain, the opportunity to infiltrate systems for illegal purposes will only grow. Right now, that we think it's fair to say that in comparison to some other industries, the physical security industry is less mature when it comes to the implementation of cybersecurity measures. That's not to say that the majority of manufacturers and integrators take cybersecurity lightly, but on the whole, as an industry, we are just less experienced and competent than those in, say, the IT world. Manufacturers and integrators of physical security devices are increasingly challenged by input from these more cyber mature groups, and overall we are responding correctly, to be honest. Given our always online lifestyle, we've grown to expect as a world the ability to access network and resource data easily. People expect to access files and services from work using unmanaged personal devices over unprotected public networks. And from a productivity point of view, this is often encouraged. As with physical security, in the tug of war between convenience and cybersecurity, convenience often wins out. The main challenge we therefore face is that want for convenient network access, but which is then hindered by a lack of awareness and competence in the area of cybersecurity, which then ultimately leads to some pretty naive choices. It is our role as a manufacturer to enable the integrator and the end customer to strike the best balance. As a member of the CIS security suite, Zenitel followed the CIS controls, as well as maintaining an awareness of other industry guidelines, such as the NIST cybersecurity framework. The update to our hardening guide brings us in line with CIS Controls 7.1. To us, the key building block for an effective cybersecurity strategy are plan, do, check, and act. And we're going to spend a little more time on each of these points. So to begin with, planning is an important first step to define what is reasonable and what is an achievable set of actions to take. The CIS controls show what measures should be taken and who should typically put a control in place based on metrics such as the business size, how available IT resources are within a business, plus the kind of activity the business undertakes and the type of data the business holds. For instance, based on the IG model, a small business who handles maybe a little bit of private data might be an implementation group 1. If the same business then handles public records or sensitive client data, it'd be much more likely to move up to implementation group 2. Based on our size at Zenitel, our global reach, and our activity as a manufacturer, we would probably be viewed somewhere between implementation group 2 and 3. So now that you have an understanding of which implementation group different people fall into or different businesses fall into, it's time to look at some of the controls themselves. And in our guide, we've shortlisted the controls that have a direct effect on our solutions and which we have facility to implement via our devices. It is important to note that although an implementation group might not need to put a control into practice, the capability to do so within our devices remains. So we feel controls 1 to 4 are really the key controls for a secure intercom solution. And I'm going to go through them now. So control 1 is the inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices. Setting up discrete network solutions for physical security devices that are separate from those accessed by personal or mobile devices and the corporate data network is an important first step in this. And from there, you need to know which devices are on your network. So in many cases, network ports still need to be available to the outside world as well. So maintaining that database of authorized devices using automated tools and perhaps following the 8021X framework with, say, a Radius AAA server allows you to deploy accountable credentials and to manage device access to the network and its associated network services at the port level. Control 2 is inventory of authorized and unauthorized software. So knowing what software is running on your network allows you to identify and deal with any software that may be unauthorized and usually potentially harmful, or software that is authorized already, but in need of update to remain resilient to attack. As well as offering new features and fixes, up-to-date Zenitel software ensures that the latest security patches are implemented kind of as and when they become available and important. So following on from control point 2, continuous vulnerability management is an incredibly important check to continuously check for new exploits and vulnerabilities. One should use automated vulnerability scanning tools and automated software patch management tools to help identify any new vulnerabilities, and then also, as with Control 2, keep your software up to date. Control 4 is probably one of the most effective and easiest and yet most regularly overlooked measures, and that is the controlled use of administrative privileges. Having strong authentication methods in place allows one to limit threats, and in the event of a breach can help trace how and when it happened. We see from installation of our own products that people still use pretty weak passwords, or in the worst case scenario, they actually continue to use default factory passwords and usernames. As far as we're concerned, the most basic step in a lot of this is to have passwords that should be both unique and maybe that follow the latest advice on password complexity. But for practicality, you can manage your passwords using a management tool or service such as KeePass. I'd like to now hand over to Anders to give you a brief walkthrough of how to put some of these control points into practice on your devices.
Thank you, Pete. Now that we're finished with the planning phase for cybersecurity, it's time to move over to implementation. I'll demonstrate how we can make batch changes on our intercom stations using the IMT software, which is our intercom management tool. And I'll also demonstrate where you can find the software and how to use it. So I'll take control now. At our wiki page, which is at wiki.zenitel.com, we can go over to software download and scroll down to applications and tools and expand. And here we can find the installation file for the IMT software. Once you've downloaded the software, we can go back to the main page. And from here, we can find the instructions for the IMT tool. You go over to all categories, scroll down to the VS IMT category. And here you can find all the instructions you need to set up your system. Now I'm going to do a short demo of how easy it is to batch configure passwords for all stations. So here we are in the IMT tool. I've already discovered my stations, and now I'm going to demonstrate the password change. I can hit Control A to select all the stations and tick the password box and type in a new password, a secure one. Hit apply and upload. Easy as that.
Thanks, Anders. I think it's important to mention that the settings Anders showed us are only a glimpse of what we can implement towards cybersecurity on our devices. After that implementation is done, it's good practice to periodically check what is actually happening. This ties in with control point 3, continuous vulnerability management. In our guide, we've put a list together giving you some pointers on where to begin, but it's by no means exhaustive. In each case, we suggest you have which control you are checking, which task you are doing in association with that control, and what you expect to see, as well as what is happening in reality. Collecting this information in a structured, consistent way will simplify tracking and make it easier for you to report on your system's cybersecurity health on a regular basis. Finally, once you have the follow-up actions identified, you should act on them. We recommend that the actions are evaluated in terms of priority and the resource needed to get that change in place. For example, if it was found that former employees still have access to their passwords and their admin rights, the action would be to update the passwords and remove those old accounts. Given how easy it should be and how important the change is, it should be a top priority. So then all that's left to do is to put that change in place. As we mentioned earlier, the cybersecurity process is an iterative one, where consistently following plan, do, check, and act in combination with the controls set out in our guide will yield the best results. So hopefully we've shown you why you need the Cybersecurity Hardening Guide, the challenges we face as an industry, and how the basic cybersecurity features in our devices can be enabled. You can find the Cybersecurity Hardening Guide at the address you see on the screen, or you can go to our website and search Cybersecurity Hardening Guide. So thanks for joining us.